won't take that long. But we want to make sure that patients have time to join the study because it is very involved for the first, I think for the first 12 weeks, we see them weekly. So if a patient,
I guess my question now wasn't clear. How many organizations like yours are involved in this study? How many people totally are involved in it?
yeah, I have to look that up. I don't recall how many sites in the US and how many total patients they're seeking at this time. Yeah, I think Dr. Martinez could probably check on that.
You can look it up on those
Yeah,
clinicaltrials.gov and list everything about the trial, all the study sites, the trial design, all that stuff is available.
Yeah, we reached into our database for potential patients who are interested, but like you mentioned, some of our patients are already on the study, so they wouldn't even qualify. But we are still looking. Yeah, if anybody here knows of anybody that may be interested, we've had some patients that we've shared the information, they share with the provider. Provider says, you know, I'm not a big fan of the study, and I mean, that's pretty much it. We're more than happy to talk to providers, give them the information, but if your provider doesn't agree to join the study because of what's required and being off treatment, then that's probably the best thing.
Thank you. Any other questions? No.
I know you had some reference to having in one of the slides. I took a picture that didn't include that, but it was on being clean. Now stop taking it.
Yes, you would have to stop your treatment. Yeah. Yep.
And you have to be off for the visitation.
Let me see if I can move this.
Maybe some mistaken.
So I think it's here. So on ART for at least 12 months, and the current ART cannot include these. Yeah. And I think we're finding we've excluded quite a few patients because they're on certain medications, and so yep. Yeah.
Go to the exclusion. I think it was mentioned. No, it's not.
Yeah, I think oh, let me try this one. There we go. This one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
long acting. So you had to be off for 6 months.
Which more than likely we probably wouldn't do because in 6 months' time, would this study still be enrolling? Probably not. So to wait all this time and just say, hey, we're not enrolling anymore. Yeah, we wouldn't do that. If it was a shorter term, maybe a month, that's more feasible, but 6 months, I don't think that would work. Yeah. Okay. All right, and let's see here. So that's it for that one. We do have another study that we're just started up. This is called the Lighthouse study. Thanks. So the Lighthouse study is not interventional. It's not a medication. Pretty much, we're looking for patients who are scheduled to have a lung cancer screening or a low dose computed or LDCT scan, or patients who are scheduled for colonoscopy. This study, we pretty much are taking blood samples. They're checking for biomarkers in the blood. So the idea is that instead of having a low dose CT scan or a colonoscopy, you can have a blood sample taken. They can search for these biomarkers and it could be indicative of cancer. So I'm not sure if you prefer a LDCT or a colonoscopy to a blood sample, but that's the general idea for this study. So we would see you for the first visit, the baseline, and every year you come back to the office and we take blood samples. During that time, if a patient does develop cancer, they do exit from the study. But that's all this study is pretty much doing is just looking for patients who are scheduled for a LDCT scan or a colonoscopy. You come into our office before that procedure, we take blood samples, ship it off, and you receive a stipend, and we see you back in a year, 2 years, and 3 years. And that's pretty much it. It's a very simple study, not interventional, just a blood sample or blood samples. And that's pretty much it. Here's our contact information. If you'd like to take a photo with your phone, we are located in Palm Springs, California, across from the Desert Regional Hospital at the Las Palmas Medical Plaza, pretty much on the second floor above Velasquez Eye Institute. That's pretty much it.
Are you okay if we share these slides?
Yes, we can show them.
Okay.
Yeah, this is, we made this using public information, so there's nothing confidential in it. All right, thank you very much.
So next up is Golkoo Marcos from Bios Clinical. So familiar to many of us. So Golkoo, take it away. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. It's nice to see all of you again. You probably have seen me present several times now at this meeting, as well as we had the Positively Aging event recently as well. But for those of you who don't know me or who we are similar to Palmtree Clinical. We're a standalone clinical trial site located in Palm Springs. And we have a pretty remarkable team. We're not as established as Palmtree, but we really got started in clinical trials in 2022, last year, in September. And the remarkable thing is that we started with a very small team. We had one study for PrEP, looking at long-acting injectable PrEP. And we have grown to now 9 trials. And one difference about us is we're primarily focused on HIV at this time and PrEP. So we're all infectious disease specialists for the most part, including myself. And our team has a lot of experience managing people who are living with HIV. They're either physicians, nurse practitioners, or they've come from a background of case management and so on. And so some of the really exciting news we have recently is that we have a new partnership with Eisenhower Medical, and Dr. Cyril Gauthier and Dr. Ann Stapleton are coming on with us as investigators for our trials. Thus far, we've had Dr. Zed Shear. She's been in primary care physician who has HIV experience, and Patrick Shine, who's a nurse practitioner who is specialized in management of gender diverse patients. And that's been really helpful to us in our PrEP trial. So a really diverse team, because we're also focused on diversity in clinical trials. And that includes looking at patients who are older in age, in terms of if you're thinking about age brackets greater than 50 years of age. We know right now FDA is looking for a diversity in clinical trials, specifically because the way that these products, when they're going through a clinical development program, it's much more well-rounded when you're able to look at these agents in a wide variety of people, rather than, people who are coming from the same ethnic or racial background and maybe the same gender. So just a little bit more about us, what our vision is. We're a standalone clinical trial site. We are trying to partner with all the different organizations that are managing people who are living with HIV or at risk for HIV. And really the vision was to be able to bring cutting edge investigational new drug trials to Coachella Valley, to Riverside County. For those of you who aren't familiar with me personally, I actually came from pharma. Recently, a couple of years ago, I was a medical director at ViiV Healthcare, which is a subsidiary of GSK. I've been in the field of HIV for over a decade, and this is my passion. And so I knew that Palm Springs, there are a lot of people here who are living with HIV, who are aging with HIV, and I kind of understanding the trajectory of where treatment is going and the evolution towards a functional cure. I thought it would be really exciting to see if we could set up house here and bring some of those trials that we often see in places like in bigger urban cities like LA and so on, bring them over here. So that was really the vision. We are located at 1401 North Palm Canyon Drive, Suite 201. This is what our office looks like, just to give you an idea. And for us, again, it's about family. It's about inviting you to a space that you feel comfortable, that you don't feel like you're in a doctor's office. So just to give you an idea, we're right across from Dr. Del Rosario's office, if any of you are his patients. So yeah. Here is our study lineup. And I mentioned we've got 9 trials going on. So I'm going to do my best to go through these studies with you, particularly the studies that we are actively enrolling. Daniel had wonderful slides on all of the inclusion and exclusion criteria for the study that they're looking at. I have a number of trials here. I don't have that kind of detail for you. So if you're interested, just come talk to me. We also have a booth outside with all of our information. We have little cards with QR codes on them. I'll be around if you want to talk to me, but I'm going to give you sort of a general overview of what we're doing and which studies we are actively seeking participants. So before I get into that, I just want to give you a flavor of some of the novel agents we're working with. One of them is a capsid inhibitor, lenacapavir. And we're also going to be working with a novel capsid inhibitor that ViiV Healthcare is looking at in an earlier phase trial. Probably wouldn't apply to any of the folks sitting here tonight, but that earlier phase trial is going to be for people who are newly diagnosed. Nonetheless, the cool thing about capsid inhibitors is that it has multiple modes of action. And so it's blocking nuclear transport of the viral RNA into the nucleus of our own cells. It's preventing virus assembly and release, and it's preventing capsid assembly. And so capsid is, if you think of like an envelope, it's the thing that is protecting all of the genetic material of the virus. So you're blocking 3 different mechanisms, and it's also a very potent medication. So far, it's been formulated into a long-acting injectable product, one of which is actually on the market. Some of you may be on it. I know they're using starting to use quite a bit of it at Eisenhower because it has been approved already as an antiretroviral in combination with other antiretrovirals for treatment of people who are considered to be heavily treatment experienced, who have a history of what we call virologic failure, may have multi-drug resistance, and may not be tolerating their medications well, or what have you. So it's already been approved, but we're looking at it for PrEP. And I know that this medication is actually the center of all of Gilead's future pipeline products. So right now, some of you may be on Biktarvy. Bictegravir was the center of their development pipeline program, and now it's lenacapavir. And so what that means essentially is they're going to be bringing a lot of trials into the R&D space, looking at what partners can match up well with lenacapavir. And so I know that we don't have this study, but they're also looking at lenacapavir plus a broadly neutralizing antibody. And we have a similar study with ViiV, I'll talk about in a minute, but it's really exciting because if you think about it, this is an agent that you're injecting every 6 months. And if they're pairing it with something else that's given every 6 months, then just imagine the quality of life and everything else that brings along, not having to take your pills every single day, multiple times a day. And again, treatment evolution has been moving towards fewer medications and longer acting medications. So exciting time to be doing clinical trials. Okay. So we have a broadly neutralizing antibody. We're going to be recruiting pretty soon, probably in the next couple of weeks. We're just getting ready for activation of our site. We are working with ViiV Healthcare, and they have a broadly neutralizing antibody called N6LS. They worked with the NIH on this antibody. And so if you think about what antibodies are, when you get a vaccine, you develop antibodies, right? It's your natural immune system. It's your body's way of identifying a pathogen or something foreign in your body. And so they have gone to people who are long-term non-progressors. So that's probably a familiar term, but I'll just explain what it means. There are some people who are infected with HIV and they don't start antiretroviral therapy. They don't start HIV treatment because their bodies are somehow able to naturally suppress the virus from replicating. And so they go to these people and they gather what their antibodies are, and they take a look and they say, okay, we're going to pluck some of these out. We think that this person's antibody is has really good broad coverage for a variety of different variants, different types of HIV. And so that's how all of this stuff came about. So they took these antibodies, they've created these broadly neutralizing antibodies as a result of that. And they're hoping that this is going to be able to provide coverage in combination with other medications. And so the early studies with the broadly neutralizing antibodies, including N6LS. Of course, early phase studies, they have to do monotherapy for a short period of time. And when they do that, they're looking at safety and they're also looking at efficacy. So is the viral load coming down? And does it stay down? How long does it take for the viral load to rebound? The really cool thing about broadly neutralizing antibodies is that they've been shown in some participants, even if you don't restart antiretroviral therapy, some people take a very long time to rebound. And so that lends the idea that there could be a potential functional cure utilizing these agents. And so let me talk about the study that we have with that trial that we're going to be recruiting for very soon. Is a combination of N6LS, otherwise known as VH3810109. And we are ViV Healthcare, VH, that's the one part I know. That's a company I came from. So I personally know that this product is a good one, just from the extensive early phase trial that they had been doing. There's a lot of excitement around N6LS. And they're combining it with cabotegravir. So everybody knows Cabenuva. Everybody wants to be on Cabenuva. Well, cabotegravir is just one element, one component of Cabenuva. It by itself is actually used for PrEP. It's already been approved. So that's your antiretroviral. Cab is your antiretroviral. It's an integrase inhibitor. It's a second generation. It's a potent drug. It's given either monthly or bi-monthly. In this study, it's going to be administered monthly. And it's an intramuscular injection that's given in the gluteus muscle. It's combined with the broadly neutralizing antibody that is going to be given, and actually there's a typo here, so I need to fix that because they had it previously, they had it structured slightly differently. They're actually going to be infusing it every 4 months. So they're not doing 1 or 3 months, they're doing 4 months. And so the infusions are going to happen either IV, so in your vein, or they may be subcutaneous, which means that's in the fat layer of your abdomen. And so just imagine you're getting cabotegravir monthly, you're coming in for monthly visits. So you would have to be able to dedicate yourself to coming in monthly, and every 4th month you'd be getting your either subcutaneous infusion or your IV infusion. The really neat thing about this trial too is that I know they are coming out with longer formulations for cabotegravir. They are looking at every 4 months dosing for cabotegravir. So it's not a coincidence because they want to be able to match it up to N6LS so that eventually people don't have to be having this sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Right? They're treat. I had a really long day today. Like yes, the intervals are matched up for their medications. So you know, you wouldn't have to be getting one medication every month and another one every 4th month. So that, if that makes sense. So Gilead has their own study too. So again, this is the wave of the future in terms of treatment options. They're looking at lenacapavir plus their broadly neutralizing antibody. The cool thing about their study, and I don't know if Palmtree is doing this or you've closed down enrollment on it or not, but it's every 6 months. So this is more frequent dosing. And its partner agent is given every month, but there is going to be the potential in this protocol for when they come out with every 4 months dosing to be on that every 4 months dosing for both agents. Personally, from my perspective, just sort of knowing about the development of N6LS, it has broader coverage of variants than the Gilead antibody. The downside is more frequent dosing, but I think it's a better agent. That's just my opinion. Okay. So going back to some of the other studies, this one we're recruiting for right now as well. And one thing I want to mention before I move on. So to the folks in this room, I know a lot of you have been living with HIV for a long time. You've been infected since the 80s or the early 90s. This study is not going to be for you, unfortunately. We are looking for people who are on their first or their second HIV regimen. And you know, people who haven't had a history of failure in the past. So it may not be you, but it might be somebody that you know, might be your partner, it might be someone in your friends group. If you think there's anyone who might be interested in participating, please let us know. They have to be undetectable on their current regimen for 12 months. They have to be on their current regimen for at least 6 months. And so there's a lot of other criteria, but I'm happy to discuss. It's really cutting edge, really exciting. If you think there's a chance that you or someone you know might qualify, please come and talk to me. Okay. So another trial that from the outset doesn't look as exciting, but I think that it's still contributing a lot to a data gap that we have right now in terms of thinking about older patients and what kind of data is there on these treatment regimens in people who are older than 65 years of age. So we have a trial. It's for people who are greater than 50 years of age, but we are specifically really trying to get people who are older than 65 because that's a diversity bracket. And we're looking at switching people from Biktarvy to an already approved medication called Dovato. Now, again, the caveat here is that if you've been living with HIV for a very long time and you have resistance mutations, you still might be on Biktarvy and doing well. Your doctor puts you on Biktarvy and you're managing on that. This trial still won't be for you. So if you are on Biktarvy as your first or your second regimen, really don't have a history of virologic failure, don't have a extensive history of drug resistance, then we'd love to talk to you because the concept, and this is what I loved working at the drug company that I worked at before, is that they were working on minimalizing therapy because the agents are so potent now, we can get away with using fewer drugs. And so Biktarvy at the end of the day, wonderful product, it's still got 3 drugs in there. And we are trying to get away from using any tenofovir-based regimens because we know tenofovir has a lot of toxicities associated with it, particularly in all these conferences, we hear about things like weight gain, we hear about osteoporosis, we hear about renal effects as well, although those are rare. In an aging population, those things may be, those side effects may be more pronounced. And so what are the benefits of getting an older patient population off of a tenofovir-based regimen and onto a regimen that doesn't have that and has fewer agents in it? And again, it's not an investigational product. The safety and efficacy of it has already been proven. It's just looking at what the benefits of switching and reducing your reducing the number of medications that you're exposed to. So cool thing about this, we'll be doing liver fiber scans. We're going to do them at our office. Yours truly certified. And so that it's not something that's done every day, but we get to measure your liver fibrosis score. And so it tells us how fibrotic your liver is, which is good information to have. You wouldn't otherwise really get a liver fiber scan done unless it was known that you were co-infected with hepatitis or might have fatty liver disease or something like that. So we'll be tracking that over time. And also we're working with Eisenhower to get full body DEXA scans. So what is the impact on fat tissue? What's the impact on lean body tissue, as well as bone density when you switch from Biktarvy to Dovato? And some other study has shown that there are some benefits in terms of increases in lean body tissue when getting off of a 3-drug regimen over to a combination of dolutegravir and lamivudine, which is what Dovato is. So I'm just going to pause for any questions on those 2 studies.
Done to the silence once again.
I have a few more, so we'll just keep going. So a lot of you have reached out to us and are interested in this particular study. We've gotten you to sign our forms. We've requested your medical records. We're gearing up. If you haven't heard from us, we haven't forgotten about you. I promise you, I have a list of your names and I have your medical records and I need to start going through them because we are coming up on the phase 3 of this trial. We have 2 participants enrolled right now. It's in phase 2 and they're gearing up for phase 3. And what they're doing is taking patients who are on complex regimens, meaning you're not on a 1 pill once a day. And why is that? It's because you are someone who might be living with HIV for 20 or 30 years. You've gone through drug resistance. You've gone through maybe sequential monotherapy, or maybe you're just somebody who you might have started in the last 10 or 15 years. You might have failed a regimen in the past. You have a little bit of resistance here and there. But as a result, you can't be on a Biktarvy once a day, or you can't be like on a Triumeq or any one pill once a day because of some reason. And that reason could be resistance. It could be past issues with tolerability of single tablet regimens. It could be some other, maybe you're on some medications that don't allow you to be on those single tablet regimens, meaning there are drug-drug interactions that interfere. So as a result, you might be taking more than one pill once a day. You may be taking more than once a day dosing. And if that's the case, then this study might be for you, because we're going to take you off of those medications and we're going to put you on a one pill once a day that only has 2 medicines in it. Again, keep in mind, everything is moving towards fewer medicines. In this case, it's still everyday dosing, but it's really simplifying your regimen. It's making it a lot easier for you, especially if you have to take medications more than once a day. Okay. Any questions on that one?
The people on cabotegravir
Yeah, they can be on the study so long as Cabenuva isn't the only thing that they're on. So if it's like a combination of Cabenuva plus something else, then yes, they can be. Yeah. Any other questions? Yep. Okay. So the long-acting PrEP trial, I'm not going to focus on this too much because of the group I'm speaking to, but if you know anyone who wants to be on PrEP and wants to be on long-acting PrEP every 6 months, hasn't been on PrEP in the last 3 months, is engaging in really high-risk sexual activity, please refer them to us because this study is going to stop enrolling pretty soon. We're the highest enrolling site on the West Coast. We have 30 participants randomized. The criteria for this trial has been really difficult. So we were able to reach out into the community and find people who are extremely diverse and are very high risk, and bring them into the trial, which we're very proud of, but we want to be able to get other folks as well. So please let me know if you think there might be someone interested, or please give them more information. Okay, now for fun, just talking about some of our early phase studies. I mentioned we have another trial with a capsid inhibitor. This one is from ViiV, so similar to lenacapavir, but this is orally administered. And the way these early phase studies go, and a lot of people get scared when we say monotherapy, but when we want to develop a new drug, we have to do a short-term monotherapy study. This is how the FDA has guided industry on developing these trials. We do it for 10 or 11 days, maybe a little bit more, sometimes up to 14 days. And you're going to get, depending on the dosing of the product, you're either going to get dosed every day or you're going to get like 1 dose or something. And we're measuring the viral decay. So we're measuring how your viral load decreases with that dose of medication by itself. Otherwise, how would we be able to measure the potency of the drug? So it's going to give us a lot of information about the potency of the drug. It's going to give a lot of information about the right dose of the drug. And it's also going to give us information about safety. And so from here, from a phase 1B, we move on to phase 2 and larger phase 3 trials. We have another one coming up. It's a 3rd generation integrase inhibitor. Again, it's an early phase. So these are for treatment naive patients, meaning people who haven't been on therapy ever. So again, probably not applicable to this group, but I just want to talk about it for fun because it just gives you a flavor of the kinds of medications that are coming to market. And as we go to phase 2 and phase 3, they start to broaden the criteria for the trials. We have an umbrella study with Gilead. This is an early phase trial as well. It's looking at long-acting NNRTIs. The thing that's different about this one is, unlike those ViiV trials I just covered that are the last 2 that are for naive patients, this one can also take patients who have they've stopped their therapy for at least 12 weeks. So we know that there are some people who take drug vacations, study medication vacations, and for whatever reason, and they're viremic, meaning they have a detectable viral load, 5,000 copies or higher. And you want to do something cool and just for like a week, dedicate your time for a week. This would be the trial for you to look at a novel agent. And the commitment on your end is for a short period of time. An NNRTI. Yeah, long-acting NNRTI. And the reason for that, I believe, is because they want to pair that with lenacapavir. So that brings us to this study, which we're not enrolling for, but I still wanted to let you know about, just again, for knowledge and transparency. We are doing a 2-drug combination that's administered orally once a week right now. And these were for patients who are on Biktarvy, again, patients who haven't had a long history and they switch over. And yeah, the patient that's on active drug is loving it. I mean, it's been a real life changer for her. That's a combination of 2 medications, is islatravir, which is actually owned by Merck, and lenacapavir, which is Gilead's drug. So the 2 companies have partnered together to create this once-a-week regimen. So for our observational cohort, we are doing this still. It's kind of going slow because we have so many other trials right now with interventions that we're involved with. But if you're someone who has been living with HIV for a long time, have had your regimen changed since 2018 for one reason or another, you know, you're somebody who's on, maybe have multi-drug resistance, have you know, different combinations of drugs, been living with HIV for a long time, come and talk to me if you're interested in being part of the study. There's no intervention here. It's observational. It's more like a registry. And we're just gathering information and on how your HIV management is being done. You know, like, how are you doing? How's your viral load? What are the regimens that your doctor has picked out for you? And all that kind of stuff. So that was it. Well, yeah, thank you.
How many questions to go through? I mean, you meant a lot of studies. Yeah, go ahead.
Are you aware of any study for treatment naive allegiant lowers and non-progressives?
Interventional studies with medications? No, not at our site. I'm trying to think. No, I'm not.
I know, at NIH did these studies. So, shoot me your information, I can see. A lot of them are observational studies, because for a long-term non-progressive, you don't really need to be on therapy. Although some people are recommending, even if you're have an undetectable viral load, because you have HIV, you have more information and the higher risk of other problems. So some people can put on therapy with the virus. Yeah, so a lot of people don't want to have to go on, but yeah, message being lost. Speaking of the long-term non-progressives, we're going to be having a webinar that Park is sponsoring on December 13th with the so-called San Francisco chief. You may have read about her. She's a long-term non-progressive, actually a lead controller. So she never had a viral load. An amazing woman. She started a foundation for people who are long-term non-progressives, brought them all together, including the cohort, and the third meeting and the trial that NIH and Harvard. So she's going to be joining with one of the NIH researchers specifically about that. So that might be a good place to ask that question as well, because the research at NIH might know that.